Okay, now it's recording. All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. 5:21 p.m. Let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead that. Everyone ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag
To
of
the
the
flag
United States
of
of
the United States
America
of America,
and to the republic
to the
for which
republic
it
which
stands,
is stand.
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, please.
Jeremy Boucher,
Present.
Aaron Montano present, Bryn King,
Present.
Gabriel Sook is probably coming later, Rebecca Boucher,
Present.
Mark Masick, maybe later, we'll see. And then Terry Frazier.
Present.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the consent agenda items. Several items there. The bank reconciliation and check registers were sent out for review earlier. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull for further discussion out of those items? So yeah, okay, there being no request to pull anything, like I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as they stand. Do I have that motion?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda items as they stand.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, moved by Bryn King, seconded by Rebecca Boucher. Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussions, call for the vote. I will call for the vote. Aaron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bryn,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries on to the first action item. So just a quick note about the agenda, Aaron, for the secretary. We just got to make sure that when you put the motion in there, you take out the no additions or corrections. So deemed approved line. Looks like there was some cutting and pasting. We just got to make sure that phrase is not in there. Okay, transportation funding. Katie, can you give us the rundown on that situation?
Yeah, so what this is Keith wants us to vote on a policy that if PED does not provide us additional buses, that then we would provide funding for parents, specifically of special ed kids, but I think it should apply to all parents. Like mileage reimbursements to parents who need to bring their kids to Hozho if we don't have bus or transportation for them.
So that's only if we don't get PED financial support for new buses.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So is this something that others, like, can you talk a little bit more about what do other schools do this? Is this unprecedented, or is there precedent for this?
No, a lot of schools, a lot of charter schools, especially like baby charter schools, they do reimburse parents. Now it's probably only like 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, it's not like a lot. It's just a few that for whatever reason they need to drive their kid, and I forget there is some kind of regulation, like you have to be 30 miles away or something like that. And then there's quite a bit of paperwork that you do to get reimbursed for those miles. So yeah, other schools do it, or it can be done. But for the most part, given I think the paperwork burden it puts on parents, they prefer just to do a bus.
Right, but this would be for parents whose kids are on the routes that we can't get buses for, right? I mean, is that?
That's great. That's correct. Yeah,
So
and who live far away, which I don't know what that's what the language says, but there is an actual mileage that's in statute, and I think it's 30 miles.
So there's nothing in the packet about that, is there? Do we have any specific language that,
No, no.
Okay.
So if you want, we can table this until Keith can join. I know that they're out right now. I just have-
Katie, are we obligated to do this? Like, or we not do? I'm just curious, like the extra spending for it.
I don't know if we're I didn't have the conversation with transportation. So I'm not sure if we have to do this or not. That, and then the blurb I got from Keith, so I could be Keith, was that it is for, special education students for their parents to get reimbursed if we're not given a bus.
okay, so he's wanting to focus on special ed students that are not necessarily, or that are not on routes that we already have buses for.
Yeah.
Cause the understanding I have is that we do need more, we need to run more bus routes because the kids are so spread out, but we just don't have enough buses and bus drivers to do that right now.
That's true.
So, I mean, I guess I don't,
It's up to you if you want to table it so you can get more information from Keith, because I'm just somewhat the messenger right now.
yeah, because we don't really have anything to vote on, essentially. I mean, we're looking at, we would need, Keith would have to put together an actual like document with language that says this is our policy.
Yeah.
And then convince, and then that would be what we would actually vote on. Right now, like, we can't really vote to say, I mean, there's nothing to vote on, essentially, because there's no document.
Excuse me,
Um,
but would it be possible to ask Keith to bring us information that says what the impact could potentially be if that was to be right here, right now, today? Because I've seen other districts do it, and but you have to have, some sort of idea of how that's going to hit your budget. And if he has any kind of numbers that would tell
Right.
us the story, then that would be good too.
It would
Yeah.
be for, this policy wouldn't go into effect until FY 26. So July would be my understanding, because I agree with you, Terry, like we can't do it now. We don't have the budget for it right now.
Right.
Okay, so my follow-up with Keith is, one, tell us what the impact would be, and two, bring us the actual policy.
Yes, I think that's good. If he could give us just a total breakdown, like Terry's saying, of what's the estimated amounts? And then, like, how many kids are we talking about here, and what are their situations, and, are there other alternatives? It'd be good to have an actual, like, total presentation on it. So, given that we don't have anything to vote on at this point, I would actually entertain a motion to table this action item. Do I have a motion to table this action item?
I'll move to table.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded to table. Any further discussion?
Sorry, who
Mm.
seconded that one?
I did.
Okay. And it was, motion was
Terry.
from who?
Rebecca.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Rebecca and Terry together.
All right. There being no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Aaron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bryn,
Wednesday. Yes. Hey, that's cool. I for Brent.
aye for Bryn. Rebecca
Aye.
and Terry.
Aye.
All right, so let's move on to the next action item.
So this one we have voted on before. We voted on last year, like last fiscal year, when we thought the bond was going to close in May. But because it didn't close in May, we're just going to vote on it again. We think the bond is going to close in March, which would be great. And so what we're asking for is for the bond to be able to reimburse the school up to $26 million. That is a incredibly high number. We're not going to hit 26 million, but on off chance that the school pays for everything and then the bond reimburses the school versus the bond paying for it directly, we could potentially reimburse the whole bond, which we are not going to do, but it's better to have the higher number in there just in case.
So worst case scenario, Katie, we do go the 26 million. Have you run the financial projections for that? Like, is that even doable?
It is doable because of the like 18 months that we would get for construction in progress. And we wouldn't start paying on the bond until we have all the kids. I don't think it's gonna be 26. I think what we're actually still asking for is 19 or 20.
Right.
But they'll know after after this week what people are actually willing to fund on which rate, because it really matters on the rate too.
Okay.
So we could do 26 if it was closer to like 4 or 4.5. If it's still closer to 6, 6.5, it's gonna be closer to 19.
Okay, okay. So basically all we're doing is saying, yes, proceed with the bond, and then it'll be, I mean, I guess how do we have oversight as to whether, like, will we get a final vote on approving the actual conditions of the bond once we get something solid? Or does it
Yeah.
just happen and then we have to just get stuck with whatever we get, whether it's 26 or 18 or whatever?
No, we'll get once that's so right now they're kind of what they're doing is they're kind of fishing for different investors right now.
Right,
And once they get an investor with an actual proposal, that will go to the board and then the board will get to vote on it and then now that may require a special meeting because once we have an investor, we're gonna have to move pretty quickly.
right.
But
That's fair.
you guys will get to vote on the terms and everything. And I'll show you whatever those terms are, what the financials look like.
Okay, right. So this is just sort of a blanket declaration of intent to do something, and then we'll vote on the specific, the particular terms once we know them.
Yep.
So we could, okay,
This is just to reimburse. This is just on the very high end. Let's say we find 26 million at 4.5%. It is out there. It's not like it's not impossible to find that, especially in the education world. So let's say they find that person wants to invest in the school, and we do go all the way up to 26, and all the costs run through the school. They don't go directly from bond to vendor. That's
right,
what
okay.
this is for.
I see, right, okay, so yeah, so this isn't really saying, okay, we want to take on up to a $26 million bond. This is just saying we're giving ourselves the permission to reimburse ourselves up to that amount from whatever bond we end up getting.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about that? I think I was misunderstanding that. So thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
So again, just to reiterate, this is just basically to reimburse ourselves from the proceeds of any future borrowing with regard to what we're actively trying to get. It's not actually approving any specific bonding. We'll do that once the terms come in, and we finalize that process.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions about that? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution for Hozho Academy to declare an official intent to reimburse itself from the proceeds of a future borrowing for capital expenditures and providing certain other matters in connection therewith up to $26 million. Do I have that motion?
That's gonna have to be repeated, Mr. President.
So the motion would be approval of the resolution of the governing council of Hozho Academy declaring official intent to reimburse itself from the proceeds of a future borrowing for capital expenditures
Oh, okay.
up to $26 million.
Are you reading that somewhere?
Yes, I'm reading it from the no, I'm a genius legal mind, and I just came up with those terms.
You do
No,
sound like Patrick right now, so yeah, okay.
yeah. No, it's so if you scroll all the way down, it's at the very top of that document. because that's what the resolution is. It's the document that has all the whereases for our, it's the bond resolution.
Okay,
Do you see it there?
yeah, I'll just copy and paste, so.
Yeah,
we're
I'm
not
just
repeating
pulling it,
this
I'm
all
just
the time.
pulling it straight from there, so.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Up to, and then it just add up to $26 million, because we want to just put a specific amount on it. There's no amount in that document that we got, so I think it's important to put it
Sure.
in the actual resolution. So anyway, do I have a motion?
Can we have you motion that, Jeremy, since you just
I
said,
move
Thank you.
there we go.
to approve the resolution of this governing council declaring an official intent to reimburse itself from the proceeds of a future borrowing for capital expenditures up to $26 million. Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right. I'm assuming there's no further discussion. I'll call for the vote. Let me get to my list so we can do it in order here. All right. Aaron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bryn? Oh no, she's in the canyon.
It does.
Aye, 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 aye.
Oh,
All right.
good. Gabe is here. He can vote. Come, we need
Yes.
another person to vote.
I'm here.
All right, Gabriel.
How do you?
Aye. Jeremy wouldn't lead me astray.
It's the, it's
Just pull
Yeah.
in this one.
Rebecca,
I,
and Terry.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries. Let's go get that Brad. All right. And I think that is the last action item, bond resolution. And then, of course, the principals are, so Julian's not in, so we'll just move straight to the finance.
Well, I have a quick
Oh,
principal
do you?
report,
Okay.
because I'm also Julianne.
Are you standing in? Great.
I'm all these people, multiple personalities tonight. Okay, so enrollment set 759, pre-K, which is pre-K to 11th, with 76% minority and 56% being native. They came back from their 9th grade Florida trip and it was a success. Only one student had to go to the hospital overnight for anaphylactic shock.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. No,
Nobody got sunburned?
no, something happened in the water. And that's where he got this shock. So anyway, but went to the hospital with Julianne in her bathing suit and her dress shoes because she forgot her flip-flops. And anyway,
Scary. Oh my gosh.
yeah, everyone survived, so that's good. They completed their first college fair and it was a success. Enrollment for kinder and pre-K for next school year is going well. Right now, we have 44 enrolled in kinder and 21 in pre-K. And again, this is without really any advertising or anything. And then Kyle and her and Keith are in Dallas right now, talking to bond investors. And so we should know more about that probably Thursday or Friday and where that leaves us with the bond.
Great.
That's what I got.
So we're hoping for an end of March bond closing.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. And then the finance report, overall, everyone has it in front of you, so I feel like I can just speak to it. Overall, it went up. Our net operating right now is projected to go up about $200,000 from what we have been projecting. And the reason for that is because we got additional out of school funds, or we're starting to spin them down, so we're starting to see the revenue. So I added that revenue. We did see a slight decrease in our Title IV spending, just because of carryover and the way that works. And so we decreased that by 10K, and then we got an additional almost $100,000 in our SEG, because of our enrollment numbers were higher than what we were originally budgeted on. So most of the changes were revenue, some of them were expenses. We continue to play with headcount. We did increase our professional expenses, mostly in the area of special education. For the rest of the year, just based on actuals and what we think we're actually gonna spend. And in addition to that, we do have everything that's sitting in the queue right now for accounts payable. It is also included in there, so their expenses through January and everything we know we are going to have to spend in the next few months. And we are starting to get reimbursements in.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have cut our accounts payable in half in the last month. It went
Awesome.
from 1.2 million to a little over 600,000, which is huge, huge progress. And so we're starting to get these bills paid and these reimbursements coming in. And this is without one of our largest funds reimbursing us, which I'm about to pull my hair out. It's called the Ed Fellows. And what it does is it actually pays 100% of 16 to 18 EA salaries at Hozho, which is huge. And the whole grant is about $1 million. And we have received, I think, like 200,000 so far.
Have we heard like?
Oh, we call them almost daily at this point. And the response to Stephanie Vicente, myself, Julianne, people on my staff is, well, we just don't have a coordinator for Hozho. And so we just can't issue your reimbursements. So after enough pressure, we have resubmitted these reports because then they went to, well, the reports you sent weren't correct. Well, no one told us. So now we've redone the reports, we've resubmitted them. But the last time we saw reimbursement was September.
Wow.
So we have been paying, like they owe us at this point, I don't know, somewhere in the tune of $400,000 to $500,000 for all these EA salaries and benefits. So once we get that
What is it
in,
called?
the Ed Fellows program, and the problem is it's being run out of a co-op, which is Region 9. So you can either get your funding through the Public Education Department directly, and that's how you submit like RFRs, refund requests for reimbursements, or PED farms out that work to these quasi-government agency. And one of those agencies is Region 9. So there are 10 quasi-government agencies around the state. Region 9 is in Rio Doso. They hold all of like this grant and some other grants actually that Hozho has, they hold them all. And so we have to go through their special reimbursement process.
And they like get a taste of everything for doing this?
I have no idea how they're
I'm
paid.
sure they do.
Well,
Sure, there's some administrative fee.
if,
What?
If it gets stuck again, and it would be helpful to have a board or external voice. I would love to, tailor-made for situations like this.
There we go. There he is. Yeah. No,
Stick him on it. Sick him,
Yeah.
Gabe.
If we don't see this money in the next week, you will be put on an email because I am fed up. And this is not just a Hozho problem. This is a problem with most of my schools that have this grant. Hozho's problem is the biggest though, because you have the most people on it. And other people did receive their payments this month, but Hozho hasn't.
And we've kept it, just our communication with them, we haven't like gone above or anything else. Right?
We went to the program manager, her name's Amber Romero, and she does what she can,
But that's in.
so that's in-house, yeah.
Feels like there's some lever, I mean, obviously you don't want to start pulling every lever if you don't have to, but.
No, but I mean, I even tried to meet her last week at a conference. We're supposedly at the same conference, and I wrote her an email and I said, her name's Arissa, I think. Hey, meet me here at this time. I'll stay for an hour and whenever you can come by. I stayed for an hour and a half. She never came. Like, and so the communication is awful. And I know this meeting is recorded and I know it's public and I
That's fine.
think it's fine because it has been such a terrible experience.
Well, this is like, public. People like who are given money by the public, need to have the public's trust as an example of, like. I'm sure that was like that this money was like farmed out to these people for the sake of efficiency.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
That's the whole reason they
And,
do it. And it actually at this point would be more efficient to live at Ped.
Yeah. It's just that it's like, but like, you know, somebody like creates the program, but did not create proper oversight for the program, right? It's like, oh, well, they'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready when
this-
you are.
And this is the second year it's happened. If it was the first year, it'd be one thing. So we've been in this program we've been in this program 2 years. This program's existed for 3 years. The first year was like smooth, very smooth. Then that person retired. And then Hozho jumped into the Ed Fellows program last year. It was a disaster last year, and it's even more of a disaster this year. The problem is it's a great way to find people that want to become teachers, get them their alternative licensure, and have their salaries paid 100% for 2 years. It's a great program
It's a
in
win-win.
theory, but the executing it on schools' cash flow is really
Is that
hard.
missing revenue included in your
It's in
forecast?
the forecast.
So that's
yes.
probably like, okay, but if we don't get that, that's like a significant amount of
Right,
our.
but you see in your cash flow, you have a few months that are low. And that's because I'm not anticipating the revenue
Okay.
coming in anytime
Okay,
soon.
oh, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
Katie,
Yeah.
Katie, I have a question.
Sure.
This is the college that's in Espanola, right?
No, this is, so Region 9 is in Ruidoso. It's
Right,
a-
but the college that the Ed Fellows program is out of, what college is that?
I don't think it's out of a college.
Oh, they don't, so who provides their courses and stuff to be
It's-
able to?
So PED,
Okay,
because so Amber Romero runs the program, and there are certain classes they have to take through the Ed Fellows program, and then they can be reimbursed up to, I forget the
okay,
number, something for any.
okay, I get it now, yeah, all right, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
And is this, so this thing is part of the American whatever reinvestment rescue, the Rescue Plan Act? Is that part of COVID funding? Is this just a temporary deal, or is this something that's going to be set up? I mean, it's basically federal funding that we're administrating, right?
No, this is actually state of New Mexico funding. So what the state of Mexico has done is they've taken their funding and they said X amount's going to go to the funding formula, which is how we have the unit value and figure out the per pupil amount. And then we have all this other amount, which Sam, I can never remember if it's above or below the line. I think it's below the line. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think they're trying to make it above the line, but I think it's actually below the line.
Yeah, so below the line means they give PED money, and PED essentially creates programs to spend this money. And that's what this funding is. So it's actually state of New Mexico revenue.
It looks like it's just her. Amber Romero.
No, it is just her at PED. And then because PED has said we don't have the capacity to issue it to support another grant, we farm it out to Region 9. And that's how, so Amber's doing her darndest. Like, I have nothing bad or negative to say about Amber. She's doing everything she can. But to some extent, it's out of her control.
So I didn't need to just look up her criminal records.
No,
For bank
no.
records.
Mexico court case, look up fascinating records.
So yeah, so they've contract. I mean, they do the same thing with a lot of federal funding stuff. You know,
And they
have a
do, you're
contractor
right.
to
Yeah.
administrate it, and there's these nonprofits that do it, and some are better than others.
Yep, same idea. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with our forecast. The upside, we do have a little upside to this forecast. And one of the things is we haven't received our SB9 state match funds. We had received them by this time last year. And last year we got a tune of like 250,000. I'm anticipating it being that or higher. So right now in your forecast is only 250,000. And so if we get anything additional to that, and that's not a reimbursement, we just get wired the whole chunk of money. Then that your revenue will continue to increase.
But right now, end of June, barring disaster, we're looking like we'll be getting back to having at least.
Like 400, I'm gonna be conservative and say 400K. The cash flows is in at 700, but there's always a huge chunk of liabilities that go out the door in July, so. Then those count towards this fiscal year, so it's really 400.
But it's 400. We're gonna make it.
We're gonna make it, and in fact, the fact that we cut AP in half makes me very optimistic that we're gonna make it. I mean, spending has calmed down. People are not spending as much. I think we're getting our arms around payroll expenses, stuff like that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so once we close the bond, that's quite a bit of additional savings, correct?
It is, because as soon as we close the bond, all of that money goes to, like, we pay the building, pay off the building. And then we have essentially 18 months before we have to pay rent again. Which is.
And so that's
really
so
helpful.
that's like 120K a month, right?
Yes, that's just gonna really help us next year get ahead. And we don't have to take the full 18 months, and we shouldn't take the full 18 months. We don't have to, because that interest is just compounded and put on the next 30 years.
Oh,
But
right, yeah.
if we need it, we're gonna take it, because we have $1 million worth of transportation expenses. We're still trying to like dig out from, and even that, like this year, our transportation allocation, not buying the buses, but just the transportation allocation for like personnel and wear and tear on the buses and stuff like that was about $500,000.
Mm,
And as of December, we had spent 450,000 of it. So it's just, transportation's expensive, especially when you're starting. And when you're, last year we only had 200 kids riding the bus. This year we have 400 kids riding the bus, but we're getting funded on this 200.
Oh, how did heck the bus go,
I don't know. That's a Keith question.
I
But
got
if
my
we-
early for it.
Good.
even if we went just 12 months, 13 months would be 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
That we could
Yeah.
have, that we could put in reserve, we could just have
Right,
it reserved.
reserves, right. No, and yeah, exactly. So like, from the day the bond is signed to whenever we feel comfortable, up to 18 months, we're not going to pay anything. And
And
then
so,
once
oh,
we
sorry,
feel
go ahead.
comfortable, then we can start paying at any point. We can pay double 1 month, we can pay
Right.
13 payments instead of 12. Like, there's no penalty. That was one of the things we did ask. If we pay it off early, there's no penalty to that. So.
Okay.
So when will we start doing budgeting and taking a look at all that stuff, Katie?
Oh, so it's a long session, and so we are not even gonna get the results of like this, what the
Formulas.
new policies and legislation
Mhm.
mean for budgeting until end of March. So I'll get that information into March. Then that means our budget is going to look very similar to this year, except maybe a change in head count, a change in enrollment, but the enrollment and head count will probably offset each other. Yes, and then depending on the bus situation. And then, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be too much fluctuation. So we have a draft budget, then we'll take that, tweak it a little bit. And depending on what the new funding is and all that, put it all together, and you guys will probably vote on it in end of April would be my guess. If I can, I would like you to vote on it in April, because everyone else is gonna be May, because we're gonna wait so long for the information meeting.
Right. Holy smokes, that's gonna be pushing it, huh?
I mean, yeah, you guys are gonna be like the first of my schools, because everyone else's meeting is like the second week of the month, and we're not gonna have budgets ready by, if we get the information March 30th, I'm not gonna have budgets ready by April 10th.
And what's the deadline to submit that stuff to the state?
Oh, June 20th.
Oh, so you get a little time.
Yeah, and they'll, and that's what bars are for. So if you submit a budget and then you need to make changes, we can always do that in July.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great news. All that is great news.
Oh, the very last thing I was gonna say, in your packets, there's like a extra few pages. And
mhm,
what it is it's your budget and your forecast, or your actuals, your forecast, and your previous forecast. And it's outlined in more detail. So usually I
At
send
the
you,
very back.
yeah. I usually send you guys like the summary, and the summary is still the most important, but if you want to see like where are we tracking for each line item, you can use that to look at it.
great. Oh, yeah.
So just more information for you guys to look at. So. But that's it. That's all I got.
All right, great. Thanks. All right, I think that's all we had. There was no emails for comments from the community, so let's adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Adjourn at 5:57.
All right.
That's good. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.